Hi, this is Walter Stone, and this is Unit 6, Lesson 2, Factoring Trinomials. And after finishing this lesson, you should be able to factor trinomials of the type x squared plus bx plus c, and factor trinomials of the type ax squared plus bx plus c. And so if we have x squared plus bx plus c, the idea here is that we can if we look at this, x squared plus bx plus c, it comes from the product of two binomials. So for example, if we FOIL x plus 3 times x plus 5, the firsts give us x squared, the outers give us plus 5x, the inners give us 3x, and the lasts give us 15. And then we can add the like terms, 3x plus 5x, to get 8x. So the coefficient of x, the 8, is the sum of 3 and 5, which is the, and 15 is the product of 3 times 5. Okay, so what happens in general is if we have x plus a times x plus b, we'll have x squared plus a plus b times x, that comes from the outers and the inners, plus the product of the last terms. So what we want to look for are factors of the last term that add up to the middle term. Okay, so we'll take a look at this idea in the following example. So if we want to factor x squared minus 3x minus 10, I want to look for factors of negative 10 that have a sum of negative 3. So negative 10 I can factor as negative 2 times 5, or 2 times negative 5, or 10 times negative 1, or negative 10 times 1. And when I take negative 2 plus 5, I get positive 3. When I get 2 plus negative 5, I get negative 3. 10 plus negative 1, I get positive 9. And negative 10 plus 1, I get negative 9. So the factors of negative 10 that have a sum of negative 3 are 2 and negative 5. So what I want to do is I want to look at this combination of factors. So if we take x plus 2 times x minus 5, we do get, from our outers and inners, I'll have negative 5x plus 2x, which is the 3x. So, and 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. So when we multiply this back, we do get the factors of x squared minus 3x plus 10. So let's take a look at this guided example. Take notes of this on your note sheet. So I want factors of negative 14 that have a sum of 5. So I want factors of negative 14 that have a sum of 5. So 14 I think of as 2 times 7. And I want the middle term to be positive. So if I take negative 2 plus 7, I get positive 5. So I can think of x squared plus 5x minus 14 I can think of that as x minus 2 multiplied by x plus 7. And if I take the outer product, I get 7x, and the inner product is minus 2x. So 7x minus 2x does give me positive 5x. So I do have the factors that I'm looking for. So try out these two problems and come back and check your work. So pause the video, try these two, and check your work. So welcome back. In this first problem, I'm looking at x squared minus 10x plus 21, and I want factors of 21 that add up to negative 10. And I'm thinking negative 3 times negative 7 is positive 21, and negative 3 plus negative 7 is negative 10. So we can take x minus 3 times x minus 7. And in this second example, I want factors of 2 that have a difference of 1. And I know if I take negative 2 times 1, I get negative 2, and negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. So if I work with y minus 2 multiplied by y plus 1, if I check the outers, that's going to be plus 1y, and the inners negative 2y. 1 minus 2 is negative 1. So I have the correct factors in that case. So that's one type of trinomial and in this case, the leading coefficient is 1. So when we have x squared, the leading coefficient is 1. When we have ax squared, the leading coefficient is some number other than 1 most of the time. A could be 1, but in our examples we're going to see when a is not equal to 1. So let's consider 2x plus 3 times 5x minus 4. So if I do the firsts, I get 10x squared. The outer product is 8x. The inner product is 15x. And the last product is 12. So what is happening here is that we're taking 2 times 5 is 10x squared. The 2 times 4 plus 3 times 5 give us 23x, and the last give us the 12. So I want to look for two binomials. These two binomials multiply to give me a trinomial, and the first products will give us a product of A. The outside product will give us, the outside and the inside will add up to B, and the last will have a product of C. And so a way to work with this is to factor by grouping like we did in the first lesson. So we want to first always look for a common factor when we're factoring any polynomials. So that's the main rule that we're going to look for. And what we can do is we can multiply the first and last coefficients a times c and try to factor the product so the sum of the factors is b. And we can write that middle term as a sum and factor by grouping. So if we have 5x squared minus 9x minus 2, we have no common factors between the 5, the 9, and the 2. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to multiply the 5 by the negative 2, and I get negative 10. And I want to look for factors of negative 10 where the sum is negative 9. So I see that if I factor negative 10 as 1 times negative 10, and I add those factors together, 1 plus negative 10 is negative 9. So this combination of factors is going to give that to us. So we can write negative 9x as x minus 10x and factor by grouping. So here's what we're going to do. we're going to start off with our polynomial, 5x squared minus 9x minus 2, and we can rewrite x minus 10x as minus 9x. So 5x squared minus 10x plus x minus 2. I'm rewriting that negative 9x, breaking it up as x minus 10x. Then I'm grouping the first two terms and the second two terms. And I see from the first two terms that 5x is a common factor. 5x is multiplied by x minus 2. And then the second two factors only have a common factor of 1. So I see that 5x plus 1 is multiplied by the x minus 2. And that's the factorization of the trinomial into two binomial factors. And that's what we're looking for. So here in our guided examples, in the first example, I have x squared y squared plus 5xy plus 4. And I see that if I think of 4 as 4 times 1, and 1 plus 4 is 5. So let's try xy plus 1 times xy plus 4. And what we'll see is that if I FOIL this back out, xy times xy is xy squared. The outers give me 4xy. The inners give me xy. So I have 5xy. And 1 times 4 is 4. Now in the second example, if I take, I'm going to do some side work. If I take 2 times negative 35, I get negative 70. And I want factors of negative 70 that have a difference of 3. So if I take 7 times 10, I get 70. And if I take 7 minus 10, I get negative 3. So if we think of this as 2x squared, and the 2 is even, so I'm going to write the minus 10x. Sorry about this. I'm going to write the minus 10x next to it. And then I'm going to write plus 7x minus 35. So I see now that negative 10x plus 7x is negative 3x. So I'm getting that middle term. And what I can do is I can factor out a common factor of 2x from the first two terms. And I can factor out a 7 from the second two terms. So x minus 5 is a common factor. So I have 2x plus 7, and those are multiplied by x minus 5. So we've factored those by grouping. Okay, so I find that technique easier when we have like big numbers like 35, and if I take 2 times 35 I get 70. Working with the numbers that way makes life easier. Sometimes we can do trial and error. Let's take a look at this first, try this problem. And if we do this by trial and error, one thing I see that in the leading term, I have 3x squared. So the only way I can really factor that is 3x multiplied by x. And I want factors of 2 in the the last terms. Now, if I take 3 times 2, I'm going to get 6x, and that's too big. So let's try 2 in this place and 1 in this place. So if we do the outers and inners, what happens? I get 3x plus 2x, which does give me the 5x. Okay? So sometimes trial and error is a good way to do these, but I want to show you factoring by grouping when the numbers get big. Okay? So in this second example, we want factors of negative 12 that have a difference of positive 4. Okay? So try these 3 problems, and I'll pause the video and come back and check your work. So in this first, in number 2, I'm looking at factors of negative 12 because of the 4 times negative 3 that have a difference of 4. So I think 6 and negative 2 will help with that. So if we can write this as 4x squared plus 6x minus 2x minus 3, here I see that 2x will be a common factor, and that'll be multiplied by 2x plus 3. And negative 1 is a common factor from the second 2 terms. So I'll just continue over here. So what will happen is we will have 2x plus 3 as a common factor multiplied by 2x minus 1. Okay, so I'll have 2x squared minus 2x plus 6x, which will give me positive 4x minus 3. Okay? Now, in problem 3, we have to take 3 times negative 56, and that's negative 168. And I want factors of 168 that have a difference of 13. So I listed some factors, and when I look at 8 times negative 21, I get negative 168, and negative 21 plus 8 is negative 13. So here we can look at 3x squared minus 21x plus 8x minus 56. So 3x times x minus 7 gives me the first 2 terms, plus 8 times x minus 7 gives me the second 2 terms. So 3x plus 8 is multiplied by x minus 7. And in problem 4, factors of 4 times 9, that's 36, that add up to 37, are 36 times 1. So what if we wrote that as 4x squared plus 36x plus x plus 9. X is multiplied by x plus 9 to get the 4x plus 36x, and then we have 1 times x plus 9. So x plus 9 is a common factor, and that's multiplied by 4x plus 1. Okay, so these are some good examples to help you with factoring trinomials. So there's a good amount of written practice on the next couple pages of your guided worksheet. So try those out. Try the online assignments as well. And getting good practice with this is going to help us with things like solving quadratic equations in the future. So I apologize for the mess. I'm learning how to do these videos and trying to be as neat as I can. And so I hope you're getting the gist of the thinking. And when we're doing more work in class, we'll look at how to kind of keep things neat and tidy as we work with these problems. Okay, so I hope all is well, and I'll see you in class.